Ladies and gentlemen, we'll move on to the next session for this afternoon. Reimagine workplaces, the next normal for design and build. We have a very powerful panelist here. We have Asha Kushlapa, Director DWP Interex, Mr. Bibu Singh, ED Corporate Services, Morgan Stanley, Mr. Jayant Joseph, Vice President, Real Estate and Facilities, South Asia Oracle, Mr. Mayank Kumar Sharma, Associate Director, Elegance Interiors, Mr. Ravi Sarangan, ED Edifies, Mr. S.C. Dixit, Executive Director, Engineering and Construction, SPCPL. And the moderator of this session is Mr. M.D. Harish, MD Project and Development Services, India JLL. Over to you, Mr. Harish.
Thank you. Asim, am I audible?
I can hear
you. Thanks, everyone. I think after Mr. Mishra's powerful message, I think we don't need a better setting than that for our discussions today. Fantastic panel we have, and I thank each one of you for joining here, taking time from your, for this webinar. So the topic we are discussing today is reimagining workplace, next normal in design and build. And the conclave theme is adopt, survive, and thrive. So I will try to probably connect, the both generally in our discussion today. So when we say adopt, it is good to look few decades back and realize how workplace trends have changed over a time. I remember when I started my career in the 80s, the track lights or the over-padded couches and cube seating, but that's how the office used to be called. These were replaced by computer-enabled offices with open desks in 1990s, and it was followed in 2000 more by concept of hot desking and greater mobility in 2000. Especially in one of the panel discussions, I remember one of the panelists saying that, reimagining of the workplace has been happening all along. And I agree with that. I think, we have, as I mentioned, from 80s to 90s to 2000 and where we are today. I think changes have been happening, but there is one difference, which I thought I would make it as a discussion point. Changes were driven more from a business angle. Building densification, reducing the square foot per person, and all these were happening more from the business angle. But now I believe, whatever with this COVID, it has to be dealt from a human angle. I think that is the subtle difference between where we are today and where we are. So that's what I believe. So what we are witnessing now, the pandemic situation has brought in new challenges in workplaces, and we have heard it. Mr. Mishra also emphasized it very strongly. One of the key questions facing companies is the duration of the impact of the business activities, operations, and real estate strategy. The long-term societal and real estate implications could be felt for years to come. Even though we have approaches like, remote working or work from home, sustainability initiatives, integration of technology, all this could be fundamentally altered by this global health crisis. It also presents, I believe, an opportunity. That's what Mr. Mishra was also mentioning. It's an opportunity for the CRE teams and the leadership to drive value and reimagine workplaces. The role of leaders and CREs will become quite critical, and they will need to heavily rely on architects to help them answer majority of the questions and reimagine their workplaces as per the business requirements. So there's a question in everybody's mind whether the workplace will be the same, some of the things Mr. Mishra mentioned, or will it change? If so, what will be the change? And we are going to hear from our panelists. So, we have a fantastic. So we have all the stakeholders. We have the client, we have contractors, and we have the architects in our panel today. The other topic which we are talking about in this today is also the build part. The design and the build part. The reimagined design forms the next step. So we are all aware that the construction industry, Mr. Mishra mentioned also that it is the second largest employer in India after agriculture, and it is very, very fragmented and also labor intensive. The sudden stoppage of construction sites across the country amid COVID-19, I think virtually end March to April, May, we did not have much of an activity happening at all. So there was a sense of confusion, worry, uncertainty among many of the stakeholders in the industry, including most of us present today in this conclave. And we are slowly emerging. We are assuming the construction projects across the country. We must, however, take cognizance of the fact that ours is a labor-intensive industry and will be bound to face such multiple challenges given the current crisis. So with the time, technology stands to play. Even in the earlier session with Ramesh, this came out very clearly that, technology in the construction industry is probably what is going to be the post-COVID scenario. The future could be heading towards a more data-driven decision making. With these considerations, I thought setting the scene, let's hear from our experts on the panel today on their views on reimagining and design and build. So I will start with Jayant, with you first. So if I ask you, what is your idea of future of office space? How will it look like? Will it be the same or will there be changes? What are the changes we are expecting, Jayant, as a client? Can you hear me, Jay? Maybe on mute, Jay? I can see you on mute, Jay. Okay, maybe Bibu, maybe can I pass that question to you, Bibu?
Sure. So thanks, Harish. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Let's be honest. The firm's priority remains the health and safety of their employees. Most firms are trying to understand from their employees through this pandemic period as to what they would like to see as a future workplace when they return to work. Okay, and this is an important data point for all of us as professionals who are trying to solve a problem for the clients or for the employees in this case. Okay, because we are talking about workplace. I mean, I kind of very clearly see that a lot of importance moving forward will be given to employees' well-being, and I'm sure Ravi will jump onto it and talk a lot about employees' well-being. His interest. See, the air we breathe in the office space, the water we drink in the office, the nourishment part, everything is going to take the priority. De-densification will be of the topmost priority for the existing portfolios. Look, Harish, you mentioned in your opening remark about square footage per person in an office space. I mean, gone are of those days when we were thinking 60 to 80 square feet per seats. And the firms will start to look at upwards of about 100, 120 square feet or even more. Okay, and that's all to invest in collaboration spaces with technology furniture being enabled into those spaces. I mean, just before the close of or the hit of this pandemic in March of this year, probably 2-3 years ago, the industry had seen an interest towards creating activity-based workplace, right? And when you think of activity-based workplace, you think of collaborative spaces, you think of what technology can go into those spaces, and that was already in motion. So a lot of firms were thinking in that direction. And to be honest, where we stand today, or what the pandemic has taught us, we are that particular space or that particular section in the office space is only going to grow further because people will want to come into office and by maintaining social distancing, they would like to also collaborate with people. I think that is an important aspect. Use of technology, artificial intelligence is going to go up absolutely. And if I think of a project, or if I think of what are the major shifts that are going to happen, the collaboration between the architects, engineers, manufacturers, suppliers, clients at the end of the day are going to be the key to develop any products that are going to work for the future of workplace. I mean, we all need to be more innovative and creative. We all need to use the technology. We all need to use the artificial intelligence, the data-driven intelligence that we can all bring into the design and construction. I mean, for example, before the pandemic hit, no one, I mean, the area that people got scared to get into office, the first area was the elevators, right? People, the elevator manufacturers or even the clients never thought about bringing in artificial intelligence or touchless or contactless technology into elevators. But the moment it happened, everybody sprung into action. The manufacturers started thinking about it. The client gave all the data that they had about their employees and the timing of their employees getting into the elevators. And a product now is in the market and everybody is enjoying that. So I think that level of similar efforts needs to come into every areas where the architects, the engineers, and the manufacturers and suppliers needs to come together to actually develop products that are going to be useful for the future. So back to you, Harish. That's my initial remark.
Thanks, Bibu. I think you touched upon some very good points, and you also talked about innovation and creativity, and no better person than probably Ravi. So, Ravi, how do you see the role of a designer changing post-COVID? So, how do you guide your clients, and how do you bring value to the business? I think these are some of the questions it is there in everybody's mind, and maybe you are the right person to speak on that.
Yeah, thanks, Harish, and thanks, Vibhu. See, in my opinion, you need to be a Nostradamus to predict the future, leave alone an architect. There are so many webinars, predicting the future of office spaces, what is going to be the design. Economists are talking about the U curve, the V curve. Yesterday, I read about the W curve and the L curve and the K curve. So honestly, I don't think any of us can assume that position and predict the future. However, whenever I'm faced with a problem, I always look at the past. And I think you have a saying in English which says that you can never afford to forget history or condemn to repeat it, right? So as mankind, we started off as hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers is when we went out as a 15, 20 man out team, went out to hunt, came back home, and there was your family waiting for you. Similarly, when hunting led on to agriculture, again, you went out as a big group, and this is where the women also participated in the agricultural chores. And we went out into the fields, worked on the fields, came back, and then the war started, right? And once the war started, again, it was the warriors who went out of their comfort zone, fought battles, came back, conquered kingdoms. So, and then came the Dark Ages, then the Renaissance, and then you had the Industrial Revolution, which resulted in offices, starting off with large Dilbert land spaces, and then you had technology taking over. And I can safely tell you that I came into this field during that period when, Narasimha Rao had just announced big reforms. We were there at the right time, at the right place. All of us are beneficiaries of the economic boom which happened, the reforms which Narasimha Rao introduced around the 1990s. Let me honestly tell you that although many people may talk about evolution of offices, we've seen so many changes from 1990 to 2020, but the core remains the same. The open office plans have remained the same. So the form following function remains the same. When Bibu talked about well-being of the people, as architecture students, right since the time we entered our college, from the first year to the fifth year, we always had the human being at the back of our mind. You are designing a shelter, it's a basic necessity, you're doing it for a human being. So all these terms like green and well-being and sustainable and all were unnecessary adjectives which came on because the core remained the same. So nothing much has changed. There is a, as they say, a BC and AD, there will be a PC and PC, pre-COVID and a post-COVID era, where I completely agree with Bibu that you're going to have finally people following the National Building Code. The National Building Code since the 90s told about a density of 10 square meter per person, which is about 109 to 110 square feet per person. You adhere to it, you stick to it, you will find social distancing automatically happening. My guess is that the building code is going to talk about 112 square meter per person, maybe densities. We're going to have, when the Prime Minister announced this, Swachha Bharat, everyone was laughing, building your own toilet, and how prophetic those words are. Hygiene is going to be a huge plus going forward. Of course, artificial intelligence. But let me give you one sure short statement from my end. Offices will never die. The minute the vaccine comes out, it will be back to normal. We would be careful. The educated lot will still be careful. And look at the situation now. You go out into the market, you find it's all back to normal, right? We'll need to learn to live with this pandemic. But one thing is certain: an office is needed because I gave you anecdotes in the past. A human being has to go out of his domain to work in an environment, to hunt or to grow crops or to fight a war. And an office space was necessary because that's where your discipline came in. We are all productive working from home, but let me wait for 3 more months. We'll all go have psychological issues working from home. You can't. You have to be together face to face. Yes, meetings will be rare, so travel will be less. Meetings will, and therefore the tourism industry, in terms of airline industry, is going to take a hit in terms of business. But leisure industry will survive because people have realized the importance of taking a holiday. They've already realized what their retirement is going to be like by sitting at home. And therefore, I find that situation will be back to normal, but these few considerations will come into play. Final statement, which was always a desire from our side as architects in edifice, that live, work, and play. That means I'll be working near a place where I could get a chance to play, and I'll be working near a place where I would be living. So campuses which have all these 3 components will probably be the future. So you don't have to commute, you don't have to travel to work. And I guess that's where the solution lies.
Fantastic. I think you answered many of the questions which probably I would have followed up. And thanks. Jayant, I am assuming you are back. So let me ask you probably a slightly different question than what I asked Bibu. So what is lacking in the current offices, Jayant? So anyway, we are talking about probably post-COVID, some reimagination of the design. What are the few things you believe that, we can look into if you believe that, we need to add in the designs? Jayant.
See, basically, we have got used to a rigid structure, and there was good space planning earlier, and then we moved on to this open space. So I think we should not be immediately taking any actions. It's a wait and watch. I'm sure all the companies would have task forces established to evaluate various aspects of a space and the space requirement in terms of density, in terms of do we need to change the workstations, do we need to put those partitions, is it really necessary? Only time will tell. It's too early for us to predict for something that is an unknown. And second thing is, there were issues earlier in terms of density and optimization. People were not coming to office. We were averaging only around 60% actual utilization, even pre-COVID days. So we see now that, and the other challenge that we face is when we see these vacancies, or when we saw those vacancies earlier, it was extremely difficult for us to convince the stakeholders to let go of the vacancies so that we could optimize the cost. But with the current trend and what people have seen and what success they have seen working from home, they are all open now to receive optimization of space, open to adopt flex seating, open to work from home. There is that aspect of the mental aspect, the fatigue that could hit in constantly working. So this should be actually tasked to evaluate these aspects and how we make the office space more welcoming, more wellness oriented. Our outdoor spaces, workable solution? Can we, like people like us, Oracle has got campuses across India. Do we think that we enable mobility outside the office building and enable workspaces to help people engage and still maintain that social distancing? Because COVID is here to stay for some more time. It's not that vaccine comes also that we'll be out. I may be wrong in the statement, but I think that's my belief that it's going to be here for the foreseeable future. And the company is not going to have full capacity going forward. It is going to be a lesser footfall in the offices. People, uh, people are happy that they are extremely productive. I've had conversations with our business owners. The productivity has been good. Network has been minimal. There have been some complaints related to hardware issues and due to overuse and people constantly staring at the screen because you have freedom to walk out of your office or your workstation frequently while in the office, but here you're constantly on Zoom calls, whereas you're there, you had in-person meetings. So these impact your mental state. So, these are areas that, we would have to look at guidelines, strictly guidelines, ensure safety for the employees. The most important thing for architects, designers, or for people like us is to build confidence in the employees to come back to office. So that's something that
Absolutely.
businesses should be working towards and bringing in solutions. It's not an easy solution. Nobody's got the solution for COVID, but I'm sure most of the guidelines that are coming through, the recommendations that are coming through, are all based out of research and
Yeah, thanks, Jain. I
arch
think,
experience.
I'm sorry.
Those with hope will overcome and get back to office as early as possible. I
Thanks,
hope
Jain.
that
Sorry,
gives
there
you
was
some
some.
insights.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic, Jain. Asha, we have heard two clients speaking, and of course, Ravi has also added his point. So we talked about client employee engagement and how do we bring back employees back to work. Yesterday we had a discussion with the developers. They believe that the buildings are getting healthier and hygiene and safer, but there is always a challenge to give that confidence, the psychological safety confidence to the employees. So I am sure as architect, people will be talking to a lot of clients. What are the latest trends that you see in the design, Asha? Both COVID perspective as well as long term. I think we should go beyond COVID and the long term, Asha.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Harish, for having us on this. I think the first and foremost, to use the word trend in design by itself, I find it a little difficult to accept because design is not fashion, right? And an interior space for an employee or a human being is not really trendy. If you go back to the old times, as Indians and as a very strong Asian community, we've always done things together. We've never done anything in isolation, whether it's a bunch of kids at home or these bunch of children in school, or when we played or when we had lunch or dinner. It's always been a very sharing environment, right? And in that whole environment is when ideas translated. People discussed, children discussed, they discussed what they're going to do tomorrow, or the adults discussed what they're going to do. The whole panchayat system and that discussion under the tree was what a lot of it cropped up. The West today is making a lot out of collaboration, right? So the terminology has been infused into design and furniture designs and a lot of other aspects to say that let's collaborate in the office. While I always believe, as a metamorphosis in design, especially the Indian context, collaboration always existed. If you look at your formative or primitive architecture designs, the courtyard that we speak about, or the little discussion that people had around the tree, was always to find a solution, was always to find something that would better the other people's lives, right? And that's the beginning. So I think collaboration as such, which is inherent with design and inherent to office spaces, has always been in our DNA. We can't take it away. Like Ravi just mentioned, it's all about human connect. You like to see the other human being in front of you, even when you're working or doing anything else. And we believe ideas germinate at those instances. So collaboration is here to stay. It's not a trend in design, whether it's the past, the present, or the future, whether it's pre-COVID, post, or present. Now, how much of it do you want to imbibe into your office? And that depends on every company. It's like your homes, right? If I'd like a pink sofa, maybe you like a blue. So that's the differentiator between every client. It's the culture of the company that gets exhibited in an office space. There are some very strong engineering companies who do not go in too much for collaboration because it doesn't work too much. The engineers like a focused area. While there are some who only believe in, the fun and the work is all together within their premises, right? And that happens in a very, very open environment. They don't believe noise is distracting. Rather, they believe noise is encouraging. So the cultural part is what varies. We see a lot of young people coming in, and there's a lot of discussion about millennials. I'm not a millennial myself. I'm pretty much in my later stage. But that doesn't change the workplace. I think the older you get, the agility factor is what gets affected. But it's not really how the workspace is designed, right? We still like to collaborate at our 60s, if not later, or even a 20-year-old person still likes to collaborate. It doesn't change. So I think as an office design, the route that everything follows is going to be a humanizing factor. As much as AI and technology comes in, it's going to make human beings much more robotic. Imagine a desk voicing out to you and telling you that it's high time, please stand, please walk, please drink water. Why should we get so robotic? I think the human brain is a lot more intelligent. For us to know that, yes, my body is calling for a bit of rest, or my body is calling out for some water. I would really think that the design community does not go ahead and design into making us human beings robotic in an office environment, because you need to be human to function like a that happens, think like a human, and that's the display of intelligence of the human community. So design is a metamorphosis. We will see better things for the betterment of human beings. That's where wellness and all of them creeps in. People by experience figure out what's getting better, what's working better. Some of us may go back to the culture of the 90s, and some of us may go back to 20, 21, 22 to see what's way ahead. But I think what is very centric at the end of the day is the humanizing factor of our workplace. That's constant.
Yeah, I think that's what you and I believe. What's going to change. I think we have discussed a bit on the design, and equally, whatever we do, it's important that we also talk about the build part of it. The design and build. The both hands sort of. What you people visualize, and the implementation is done through the build or the construction. So I just want to talk a little bit about the construction, and we have two very, very senior industry leaders here. I thought we should take the best use of their time. So we all know that during April, May, as I mentioned, there was virtually a lot of media coverage on the migrant laborers, labor availability, and there were about 60% of contractors. We did a survey, JLA did a survey somewhere in April, May. We got to know 60% of contractors said in the survey that their labors have fallen down virtually zero. Around 62% were expecting the labor force to return in a couple of months and all. So with that as a cue, I will go with you, Dikshit. What has been the operational challenges for the contractors in terms of labor, cash flow? How are you mitigating the same? And based on the discussions what we had on the design part, what is your take on what can change post-COVID?
Yeah, thank you, Harish. I think in past also we had discussion, but all the panelists gave a wonderful view about how human touch is required. So let me dwell on that for a while, for a minute at least. So as Asha said, if I translate that in Hindi, there used to be chopal in village. Every village we used to have a chopal. There is a burgat tree, banyan tree under which elderly people of the village will be sitting and having their day's activities being discussed and planning for the next day activities and so on and so forth. I think that was a great concept. Of running an independent village and the society or the community or whatever you want to call it. I think that translates and go into the same manner. How do we really talk about an office today? Because it's all very fine that you will have your conversation through VCs and you can have a productivity improvement, and I think you have a lot of flexibility in working hours and so on and so forth. But as humans, we are basically a very social animal. So I think the touch which is needed, things, there is something which is not only what you communicate on a screen. I think it's a small pet here and a wink there and a note there, and kind of a moving together and having a chat near the coffee machine and while going to your restroom and walking out or walking in. I think those things make huge difference as far as collaboration, coordination, and understanding a person is. See, the most important thing is, I think, how do you really understand a person? While you are working together, I think understanding the psychology of a person and nuances and demeanor of a person while he's dealing with certain situations, whether they are good situation, bad situation, how do we work as a team together to bring it up? I can be virtually robotic on a screen, and being a boss, I can be real more upfront in stating certain things. But I think that's the point aside. I echo with every one of the earlier speaker who says that workplaces are not going to go away. Maybe workplaces are going to get revisited from the point of view, how do we create a little more balance from the point of view of trying to reduce the cost or trying to, as Ravi had said, how do you bring about like Singapore government has this play, work and family kind of an environment we should have around the workplace. So that you can say, but workplaces are going to stay. So having said that, also on a lighter tone, let me say this, your family members are also telling you, please go out one day, please. Just don't be around here, go out for something, So I don't think you can make it a perennial. You are not a fixed face in the family sitting there. And especially in the cities, if you are living in an area where you have a very separate space available to you where you can spend the whole day doing your things. Like Bombay, like city is a very cramped place where coexisting of so many people of a family are there. Now it is extremely difficult to really be very productive at the same time, very patient, very human, very, all the time on the go from the family and the work together. It's very, very difficult. So workplaces are going to stay. Now, how as a construction company I feel about how the workplace is going to stay and what are the impacts? So just taking you back and our earlier conversation, yes, we faced and almost every construction company faced this situation when labor had gone, when the transportations were made available to them to their native places. And this is precisely is the sentiment we are echoing here. The craving to go to their people, craving to go to the society, craving to go to where they can meet people, talk with people, communicate with people. So we were holding, and every construction company during the lockdown period were holding so many people. The moment lockdown period was over, everybody vanished. That itself tells volume about what people crave really. Otherwise, all of would have stayed there to work, but they did not. They went home. They went home to meet people, communicate, meet their friends, families, their community, their society. So a workplace is a mini society. It's like an adda in that sense, beyond your work time. So having said that, slowly situation is coming normal. We will probably say it will take another 2-3 more months to normalize. And now, if we try to look at from the Atmanirbhar point of view of this packages coming in post-COVID from government and all that, I think multiple areas which are going to be taking very preeminent place. Reality, however down the sector is today, from the point of view of real estate developers, is not going to go away. Whether as a contractor I make money there, or whether I am comfortable doing real estate business, or whether I'm a residential business is a area where I really want to pursue, is a different part, different story. But real estate, considering the housing shortages in the country, is going to be really, really required pace where it has to take off. Now, there are a lot of experiments which are having. I think people have started talking about single accommodation, student housing. We are also trying to go now today to studio apartments. And when we are talking about single housing, I think we are not just trying to create a one-room hostel kind of a stuff, but we are trying to give them facility also. Many players in the market are there who are trying to create a facility where you have a housing facility, but at the same time on the ground floor you have a playing facility, you have a cinema facility, entertainment facility, laundrette, coffee, CCD, you might have Starbucks, convenience store, and so on and so forth. I think so. Whole definition of living space might change. I think for contracting fraternity, what is important is how do we create a logo kind of a design where Ravi or I think somebody earlier to him, I think Mr. Singh made this, Vibhu Singh made this statement that this is the time when the ultimate client, the architect, the designer, the customer, and the construction company have to come together before even the project is launched.
True.
Yeah, so that makes it very, very important from the point of view, how do you really design a space? Because our biggest challenge, if we want to go to 5 trillion economy, is we do not have skill sets available to
Yeah, I think, Dikshit, I will just probably, in the interest of time, Mayank, if I come back to you, we saw
Yes, sir.
the video in the initial phase of the, during this conclave. So,
Yeah.
even Mr. Mishra mentioned about technology, we have heard other panelists talk about technology, and, we have seen you demonstrating it. What are the automation and new technology in construction, and more so from the COVID angle, with being a labor-intensive industry, how do we and the challenges of spread of infection? How do you think that we can deliver the project on time, committed time, and without any major issues in our mind?
asking me or my
Sir,
I'm asking Mayank.
yeah.
okay.
So good afternoon, everyone. And before I say something from behalf of Elegance, I would like to tell you that it is always a pleasure for a continuous learning from JLL and CII, and it helps us to grow further and further and come out with good solutions. Now, coming to your question, Harish sir, is it is clear that the world will look different as we move beyond the COVID-19 crisis to the next normal, and you would agree that we had no time to experiment with the perfect roadmap. So what we did based on the learnings what we have from all of you and all that, so we focused on enabling our well-proven use cases in 5 specific horizons. So the first thing what we did is we increased in our R&D spend to develop new improved energy efficient system to speed up and automate element of our services in design and build. So what do I mean with that is like scaling up remote collaboration at the production stage at our multiple factory locations using a digital model. Because we believe that building in control environments even more makes sense in a world that requires close management at the movement and interaction of workforces help to reduce on-site construction. So this is very important what I believe in. Second is we rethought on the material fulfillment model with minimal physical interaction. So basically, we rebalanced supply chain by building inventory, securing critical and long lead materials, identifying native alternative suppliers who are digitally engage with our particular system. So we upgraded our system, we engage with our suppliers so that we work on a model that they align us together and we work on a smooth manner. Third, when it comes to a design build, our design coordination, we strengthen our BIM capability. So we hired few people, we arranged some training programs for our team members so that particularly for our GC contracts, which helped us improve in overall site coordination along with quality and speed benefits. So this was on the design part. Now, if you ask me, coming back to the important part in terms of the employee benefits and all that, because balancing employee requirements, balancing performance and health is much more important in these turbulent times. So we utilize the lean time to upskill the workforce and training on new tools and technologies. This has helped us to improve in greater engagement with our team and resulted building a behavior change on new health and safety requirements. So we believed, and these are the learnings which we had from JLL as well as CII in different and long
long sessions in the past, as well as the current COVID sessions which we have been attending. Second is tracking and optimizing work activity schedule, maintaining social distancing. So how do we do that? So what we did is that existing for all sites, we have a mechanism to monitor. Is we put cameras on site to monitor performance, and this we were doing earlier. So we tied up with an agency for putting AI into the existing cameras, which is able to help us to get attendance marking, as well as able to provide us inputs on social distancing. So in case if we figure out that the labels are not they're aligning or chit chatting and all that, immediately a message triggers to the safety officer, and a particular zone is taken care. So one layout, one floor plan is actually divided into different zones, for which we have safety officers, followed by the AI technology helping us to overcome the challenge in terms of this. Second, we have
Thanks. Sorry, Mike. I think I'm sorry. Don't take it wrong. I think in the interest of time, I will probably come back to you
Sure,
on the
sir.
subsequent question.
Sure,
So,
sir.
if I go back to you, Jayant, what will precede for employees? You think it's a de-densification or flexibility? If you want to get back to employees back to office, what is more important for them? Space amongst them or flexibility to work from home? What do you think is the right one, Jayant? Missing again, Jayant? Yeah, Bibu, if you would like to take the question, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So it will lean more towards the flexibility, because people would like to have the freedom to decide when to come to the office and when not to come to the office, because
Okay.
that would give them a sense of security, as well as empowerment to decide about what they want.
Okay, fantastic. Coming back to Ravi, so if I ask you, what is the one thing that will change in the construction or build industry or the design industry, as based on the discussions what we had, Ravi?
So although the whole world is talking about going IoT, gathering data, checking out efficiency, checking out product, checking out space utilization, etc. I think I'm a firm believer that it's like a big brother's watching you. Slowly, you will find employees complaining about cameras watching them, and probably this is something that which is very close to my heart. I think go extending what Asha was saying, that there is a limit to what technology ought to be doing, right? So are there cameras in your home now when you're working from home? No, right? Or we had always thought of designing an office as an extension of your home, right? You create an environment which is an extension so that it is stress free. So I am going to find that we, that is we in the sense clients, project managers, as well as architects, when we sit across the table, we would be getting feedback, because always at our end, we start on a project not by just following a design brief, which is extended by the project manager. We need to conduct a dialogue. So in those briefings, I'm going to see more and more question marks on how much of technology needs to be incorporated in your office. And that's where I think it is going to be more human centric rather than robotic.
Fantastic. Thanks. Bibu, hub or club, the next model? Hub and club, the next model or not? Bibu, can you get me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I heard your question. Let's be honest, and nothing is really defined at this point. I mean, no one can predict 100% accurately as to how the future is going to be look like from a workplace perspective, right? I mean, like you said, with the best of collective intelligence, I think we should aim to develop designs that for workplaces that can actually be in kit of parts. So you spoke about hub, right? And kit of parts and modular in nature. I mean, you do it offsite, bring it in, assemble, have slots available within design and within the workplace for that element to go in. I mean, and that can actually be used to make the workplace much more fungible and flexible according to the demands of the time. Because I mean, everybody in this panel have spoken about unpredictability. Everybody has spoken about we don't know when the situation is going to be different, right? So that's the key to my sense. Yeah.
Thank you. Asha, your thoughts on work from home. And it's very important for you to do the space planning based on, what is the, how much you need to do space planning. Are you looking at how do we get the, employees back on to work? Are you looking at maybe, a front office, a middle office, or a back office based on the employees coming? Is there any such thinking that will take place as we plan for future? Short answer.
Yeah. I think we can do any amount of planning. That is to give that assurance to the employee that you're coming into a safe zone to work, right? So between amongst the four walls of your house, you always feel I'm secure and there's no COVID around me. And when you want an employee to come into the workforce, that's our clients who are assuring the employees that don't worry, we're all safe here again, and hence your planning zones. It's as much as we can follow those zones, right? Like we've started working in the office. There's a cafeteria when everybody meets to eat. As much as if we put stickers and said, don't sit here and don't sit there, at the end of the lunch, I find all of us together as one again. I think it's very difficult to do that. We can set out the rules. We can ensure people follow them to a certain extent. And how does it matter? Does 6 feet, 20 feet matter? The germs are anyway going to travel. I think you just got to take care and take the initial, like hygiene is the most important thing. If you can manage hygiene and you can manage a bit of the mask, you should be okay, because you can't stop a human being from saying, when there are rules in place, we break them. That's DNA, right? That's how we all. We don't stand, we've never stood in line ever. And now we've suddenly learned to stand in line. Why?
But I think something good at least.
So maybe a question to you.
I find that very different because, I went to the bus shelter today and I saw all of them sitting in line far apart, right? And the bus.
We hope it's followed, in looking at the cases. Dikshit, sorry, Asha. Dikshit, that's my moderator job. Don't take it wrong. So, Dikshit, one word answer from you. Atmanirbhar is going to really change the industry. Help us.
I think it's changing from the point of view, as I heard from the panels of real estate and architect. I think it is going to come in a manner that it will become more construction-friendly design. So the productivity will improve, quality of construction will improve, and the cost will reduce, and timelines will reduce. I think this will be in the benefit for everyone, especially the end user. So in that sense, what I heard from everybody resonates with my thought that it becomes standardized design, like say, suppose you want to create a lot of hospitals, create some primary health care center which looks identical but absolutely functional without giving any compromise on that. Similarly, there could be IT offices which can be very standard. And surprisingly, I would like to share one detail with you. I went to IKEA office. Okay? And in IKEA office, it's an open hall where there are tables lying on which there are computers placed, and nobody assigned any place. They just come, anybody who comes first chooses the computer and works. Even he doesn't own the computer, this is my computer. He just comes on that place, sits on that computer and works. And at the end of the day, he goes. The whole hall is like your Apple store, it looks like that. So I think at the end of the day, how do we standardize things so that entire logistic chain becomes so conducive to construction from supplier or all stakeholders involved, that we save time, we do it fast, we use technology in a better manner in construction, and we get results in time in right cost and lesser time. I think that's the fundamental of everything. COVID, COVID or no COVID.
Yeah, Mayank, your views, Mayank? Atmanirbhar will help us. Can you hear me, Mayank?
Sir, are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Atmanirbhar, going to help us? Construction industry and allied industry, the
Sir,
backward
I would say
manufacturing.
it's sir, I would say it's all about sustainability and local in every aspect of business. So, as I said in my earlier conversation, we are looking at upgrading our factory in terms of being more environment friendly. We are moving our transportation to more of an electrical logistic transport, so which is environment friendly. Now, looking at the government, we since we see a parallel shift in the demand of more sustainable buildings and communities to promote healthier lifestyle. So we are looking at government to stimulate the economy by measures by retrofitting the real estate to improve energy efficiency. So this is what we are looking from the government, and as an initiative, Atmanirbhar, we are in terms of developing our own infrastructure more energy efficient.
I think my panel would not end without asking this question to Jain, or maybe to Bipo as well. With this uncertainty about the labor, we are also having uncertainty about sourcing. Whether especially that's why I'm connecting to local markets, Atmanirbhar with discussion. Do you think changing the nature of the contract, Jain and Vivo? Both, I will ask you both, each one of you. Do you think it makes sense to go for one agency like a general contractor, a design and build, so that you can mitigate the risk, or you think even they will come back, or what is your take on that, Jain?
So we have experienced success with design and build, and then I think I would like to stay with that and transfer the risks onto the design build contractor. We need to come up with strict conditions to make them take the ownership to deliver. There will be some timeline issues during these kind of situations. I think that should be accommodated, and then we should be able to overcome those situations. So I would say the design would work, and the responsibility should rest on the contractor.
Okay, absolutely, because somehow in India we have this habit of committing a very aggressive timeline, because when you see for the same project what is worked outside, whereas we do it, we tend to commit more aggressive timeline and all. In this uncertain time, maybe it is important for all stakeholders to recognize that and not get into some sort of a risky situation of getting into the contractual discussion rather than committing. That probably is one. Second one, with this incremental cost, Jain, on this de-densification we talked about. And yesterday we were having a discussion that the 3% is only the cost of the capital. 330, 300. That is the standard sort of a ratio we talk about. 3% of the real estate. So with this de-densification, whatever the incremental cost, going with Atmanirbhar and probably encouraging the local materials and assuming upgradation of the quality, I think probably they will offset each other. Do you have any say on that?
It is actually correct, and then it will definitely offset. But in terms of the timelines, I'm sure if we can accommodate the delays and keep everybody abreast of what the issues are, everybody is sure to understand. And I'm a fan of encouraging Indian material and Indian stuff. That's what we are here for. That's what these companies are here for. So we should promote India well, and then encourage our Indian people.
Fantastic, thank you. Bibu, your take on design and build?
I mean, it all depends on where and how you're mitigating your risk. And if it is a project of the capability and capacity of a design and build contract, then absolutely yes. If it is not within that limit and within that reason, the firms will definitely be risk averse, and they would like to probably divide it so that they're well covered from that point of view. But one line answer, design and build is a right solution for the right size and right ticket size, and not that it will suit everything.
Yeah, Ravi, I think it was always there in my mind because you do lots of, the big campuses, office campuses and all, multi-buildings, multi-tenanted. Do you see any statutory sort of an interface or a condition from the municipal or the building approval authorities asking for some sort of an isolation building, or you have international employees coming in, some sort of an incubation isolation, so that the entire campus is not impacted if there is a case. You think such a sort of an ordinance or requirement would come in building approval?
No, I'm not too sure. As I told you, I am one of those who are probably an eternal optimist. This too will pass. I don't think real estate cost of real estate is going to enable you to make that kind of a decision to. However, in the recent past, we've helped the government both in Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh to convert some of our IT campuses into COVID centers. So, and we did it as a CSR, and we were very successful along with Tata Trust. We converted a lot of our under construction buildings into COVID centers, which just goes to show that all this while, 70 years we've been complaining about poor health infrastructure, and within 6 months, every single state in the country has managed to put up, I wouldn't call state-of-the-art COVID centers, but sufficiently safe centers for quick cure. So if push comes to shove, I think we need to make specific centers focus on healthcare and not make these temporary solutions, because they are available in plenty in any case. So I don't think the authorities should mandate anything of this sort. I think business will be as usual the minute the vaccine comes out. But yes, as Jayant says, maybe a new virus would come 2 years later, 3 years, and we should learn from these lessons.
Yeah, yesterday we were hearing on the panelists mentioning COVID 2021 and all. I hope we don't get into that. I think we have come to almost to the fag end of our panel discussion. Fantastic, very engaging discussion. And if I were to summarize, I had made few comments. Workplace is not going to disappear. I think Ravi was very, very clear in that. Office is not going to disappear, but maybe it will require fresh and new approach. People still need places where they can come together. Asha was mentioning, and even Dikshit was mentioning, connect, build relationships, and develop their careers. Human experience, I think, will be the core of the sustainable best practices in the workplace. Use of data technology, which Dikshit and Mayang touched upon, I think that's very, very important. Over time, I believe the workplace will become less focused on desk-based work. Dikshit was mentioning urban club, even though Bibo has some comments, I don't know whether it's going to be a lot of discussions about that. Lot of theories on what constitutes normal going forward. We do not know how this pandemic is changing the workplace as well, but we know that it's going to change forever. But the golden opportunity, I believe, going forward is to redesign and build resilient offices which are human, collaborative, agile, and sustainable than they were before pandemic. I think any adoption, when I say that, if you adopt well today, we'll build a better tomorrow. That's our tagline, the JLS tagline as well. So I believe office will survive and thrive over a long time. Thank you all for joining. I hope the audience were able to get something out of it. Thank you each of the panelists for getting your time and giving very good discussion, so to say, very good points to take away. Thank you. Back to you all.